Welcome to Solving for Y. And this actually is nothing new. I guess maybe with the exception of just kind of looking at the two main forms of a linear equation. And you don't need to memorize these or anything. It's just that. And we'll look at these in more detail in grade 10. So you can see there's y equals mx plus b, slope-intercept form, and ax plus by equals c is standard form. So when it comes to studying them in more detail, you'll see that there's advantages and disadvantages to both, but sometimes in order to kind of get the information we need to manipulate it a little bit so that we can get the information we need, and that'll require skills that we already have. So it's easier to graph the line when y is isolated. So that means y is by itself, and really doesn't matter if it's on the right side or the left side, but for all of these, you'll notice that the y is already on the left. So what we'll end up doing is moving everything to the right. And the number of steps you show is entirely up to you. So you can see that if we want the y by itself, we're going to need to move the 3x over. And how do we do that? Well, the same as we've always done, right? So in order to turn it to a 0, we need to do the opposite of what it is, and so that will be subtract 3x from both sides. And then we have y equals, and we want to put the term with the x first. Technically, it really doesn't matter if it's 6 minus 3x, that's equivalent, but it looks nicer and is in what we call standard form. I don't know if it really matters the order, so I think I'll just move down. So once again, and I'm showing the steps, but just like we've talked about before, I don't need them all. So we'll subtract x from both sides here. So of course, x minus x gives us 0, but watch out for that negative sign, right? And how do we get rid of that? Notice I'm writing the x term first after the equal sign. Well, we divide everything by -1, right? Moving on. Now we can do multiple steps at once, right? So we can add 5x to both sides and subtract 1 at the exact same time. So let's go plus 5x plus 5x. It's a little tight there, right? But then we end up with y equals 5x minus 1. And of course, if you notice, anytime we bring a term from the left side to the right side, or from the right to the left, becomes the opposite of what it was. Right? So here, we'll just divide by the numerical coefficient. Y equals, now there's nothing wrong with writing x over 3 as well. So either that, or just have to make sure that when you're graphing it though, that you understand how to substitute those values, right? Because we've graphed these already. And just to the last set here. So we'll subtract 4x from both sides. 2y equals -4x minus 8. Divide both sides by 2. Right? And of course, we can graph any one of these, right? Subtracting 5x from both sides. 2y equals so this one's going to have a fraction numerical coefficient as well as a constant. And that happens quite a bit in grade 10. So, just like we've done before, right? Manipulating what we do to one side, we do to the other, just to make sure that we keep it balanced. And then when it comes to graphing, just a little extra step. So the only thing we have to do now is isolate y, and then we do the exact same steps, right? So this time I'll do it without showing the work, but I'm going to leave my 4y there. I'm going to subtract x from both sides, subtract 8 from both sides. And then I'm going to divide everything by 4. And This is an optional step, of course, but sometimes if students don't show that step, then they forget to do it here, and of course it throws off your equation, right? Minus 2. So now we have, right, this looks like just like one of the equations that we worked with before. So we'll do our table of values. So we have a fraction coefficient. So what does that mean for our values? We're going to choose the denominator, 0, negative denominator. And then we'll show our work with our substitution. So y equals -1/4 times 4 minus 2, right? Y equals -1 minus 2 is -3. And substituting each of those values in place of our x. And since we've chosen, this is 1 minus 2, consecutive multiples of 4, you can see that we're going to end up with pattern, ordered pairs. And then we plot them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, -1, 2, 3. 0, -2, -1, 2, 3, 4, -1. And our straight edge to make a nice line. And that's the end.